We are
Okay.
live.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the wrap up session of the 2021 GIS Week celebrations powered by Where Geospatial. My name is Shifa Dimile Poplampo, Head of Research Department at Where Geospatial, and I'm honored to be your host for this evening. Tonight, we have a panel of four or five, depending on whose network is actually working, to discuss the general assessment of the week so far. Okay. So we have Francis Andolfo, he's the executive coordinator for Where Geospatial. We also have Richie Hene, who is the marketing and product manager, Isaac Newton Kisiedu, who is our technical lead, and then Gamina Selemo, who is an intern at the research department at Where Geospatial. Hi guys, good evening and welcome to today's session.
Good
Good evening.
evening.
I trust we are all doing well. Okay, so I'll start with our executive coordinator, who is in the person of Francis Andolfo. Francis, this week is GIS Week 2021, and then we are Where Geospatial. We organize our podcast sessions. We've had 4 days of intense, brilliant conversations. Can you tell me your general overview of the interviews we've had so far?
I think it's been good for me. It has given me a good picture about what really the industry is looking. And I feel like as you go higher, it becomes more managerial than technical.
Right.
So so yeah, and that seems to be where the money is anyway. So uh, the less technical you are, the more money you get, I guess.
Right.
But the most important thing is for me is that all the people that are doing managerial things now were doing technical stuff some time ago, and I feel that uh, there's some kind of project management schooling when you are doing the technical work because you will get to understand how things work. So when you become a manager and you are supervising stuff, you'll be able to tell when they're actually doing it right or not. So I guess what for us in the GIS, you don't necessarily need to just go and do project management and you become a GIS project manager. But you need to go through the process so you would be able to understand if someone is writing a line of code that would crash a whole system, you'll be able to understand and then correct. So that's my impression. I think it was good. It was really
Okay.
good.
Okay. Richmond, what about you? What are your impressions so far?
Well, generally, just as Francis said, I believe it's been great for me from Monday to today. Having people share their experiences and then their journey through their GIS career has been also a learning process for me. Uh, and thinking of the different ways people are applying GIS. Uh, at some point, I was a bit surprised myself. So getting to know certain areas and certain minute things or processes that people use GIS, I was a bit surprised, but also very educative. I learned all that. So going forward, I'm going to use a few tips in my line of work as well. So I give it a thumbs up.
Please can we confirm whether we have Isaac Newton Kisiedo on or he hasn't been able to join us?
He's on, but I don't know whether he can hear us.
Okay. Okay. Hello, Newton. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's better now.
Okay. So I'm asking about your impressions so far about the GIS week celebrations we've had so far at Where Geospatial.
Yeah, so far, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yes, I can.
Uh, I think your line.
His network is still not good.
Okay. So we we are going to move on from Newton and then continue our conversation. COVID and virtual stuff. Right. Okay. So Francis, we've had four brilliant interviews so far. The first interview I remember was with Mr. Ben Akin, and then he just shared his journey with how he entered the GIS space and everything. And then the second conversation I think we had was with Mr. Isaac Newton Kisiedu, who also talked about GIS application and fertilizer, and I felt it was also equally brilliant. And then we had that of Mr. Roland. I hope I am remembering the name right. I
Roger.
think Roland. Okay, Roger, who talked about GIS and then budgeting, which was also like really, really good. So four interviews. I remember three on top of my head at the moment. Which of them, which of these four was like the highlights for you? Which of them did you listen to and were like, oh, okay, I didn't think about this, but then this is like, so which of the four interviews was like your highlight?
I think I'll take the one of Roger,
Okay.
simply because he started drawing a picture from an angle which sounds like it's basic, but it's also actually important to the people who have the money and wants to solve real problems. Those of us in the GIS field, some of the things that he talked about would have been something we think is basic.
Okay.
But then if you look at the way he put it, he made us put ourselves in the shoes of the customer or the one who will use the application. And it started looking more relevant to me. So for bank to try to do their assets, uh, bank to try to get their asset mapped, and investors trying to actually understand the assets available for these banks before they put their money in there, was something that, I mean, we always do asset mapping, but it wasn't something that I was thinking that investors will have to look out for those things first before they do their investment. And I think it's something that uh, it inspires me to know that if we think harder, we can actually apply GIS to almost everything. And
Right.
what's the advantage is that the more we think harder, the more we create the pool, we expand the pool of job search for GIS experts. So if you're a GIS person, you don't necessarily have to worry about job because everyone will want you. And that will happen if we think harder now, so that the bank will start thinking that they need a GIS person. The investor will start thinking that, like an investor needing maybe investment consultant, an investor might need a GIS consultant to give him a very good impression about what is happening. Yes, now data is not available. I think throughout the week, all of them have said the challenges is that data is not available. But when data becomes available and it has our fingertips, I think the next thing that we will need is people who will actually interpret the data, people who understand space and how space correlates with the normal real life, everyday communication and everyday lifestyle. And once we're able to get that, I think that we are going to get to the point where GIS are going to act like lawyers. They are consultant to investors who actually need them to give them a good picture of their investment, so that they can be able to invest more. So I think it just shows that there's more prospect for the field.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
glad to have you back, Newton. I hope you can hear us now. Hi, Newton. Can you hear us now?
If I think your voice is also a bit low now, if you can bring your mouthpiece closer to you.
Okay. Hi, Newton. Can you hear us now?
Yeah. I think he's
Yeah,
still
yeah, I can
struggling.
hear you.
Okay.
Sorry,
Okay.
my
So,
network.
okay, we understand. We understand network challenges in Ghana. Oh, there he goes again. Okay, so reaching. Okay, so I've remembered the fourth person was Edwin. It was
Edward.
Edwin, brilliant guy. He also
Edmond.
talked about Edmond. Ooh, why
Yeah.
am I missing names today?
Wait,
Okay, so
hold on.
Roger,
Well, I think it was
Edward.
Edward actually.
Edward, yeah.
Edward. Okay. So the fourth person was Edward. Brilliant guy, brilliant conversation about how his organization is creating job opportunities and generating data to solve daily challenges. Okay, so Newton, glad to have you back on once again. Okay, so Newton, my first question to you is What has been your impression so far about the GIS week celebrations powered by WhereGeospatial.com?
Yeah, so far, um, I mean, this podcast has been the first of its kind, according to, I mean, as far as Where Geospatial is concerned, and um, my expectations were to learn more from all angles, especially what people are using GIS to do in their work. Can you hear me, please? Hello,
Yeah, we
Yeah, we
Yes,
can.
can hear you.
Please proceed.
hello. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, we can. Please
I was
proceed.
my expectations were all met.
Okay.
From Ben, who was talking about GIZ, how he was applying GIS to MMDAs, to Edward Boama,
Newton is
who is
breaking
using
up one
Data F
second.
Africa. Can you hear me?
yes,
Yeah, we
Yes, you
can.
went off a bit, but then we can hear you now.
Yeah. So from Ben to myself, how I use GIS in the agricultural industry, I was so happy to be able to break down some of the complexities and how GIS is applied in my field. And also, I was so happy to get to know Digital F Africa, how they are now allowing a lot of people to now bring the software close to the data. Now satellites have collected a lot of data,
yeah,
and having to be able to analyze all these tons of data on your desktop is gradually becoming impossible. So even if you want to do a small analysis for the whole Ghana, you will have to go through mosaicing the data on your desktop, and the process is just cumbersome if you want to do it on your desktop. But listening to Edmond Boama, how now you do not have to download data any longer. You just have to go to the platform and do your processing over there is so amazing. Recently, I realized that they have even increased the processing power of the Digital Life Africa, which is another plus for GIS people
yeah.
to go there and yeah. So I really loved everything I learned from, I mean, everything about this podcast, and I think it should be something that should be ongoing, something routine that I expect to see, I mean, every year on a GIS day.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you for that submission. Okay, so we are moving on to Mr. Richmond Hine. Which of the four interviews? So we had four main interviews. First one with
Yeah.
Mr. Ben Akins, second one with Mr. Isaac Newton Chikiedu, the third one with Mr. Edward Buama of Digital Earth, and then the fourth one with Mr. Roger. I don't think I can remember his last name, but that's fine. So which of these four stood out to you?
Roger Kayumba.
Kayumba. Honestly, I
Thank
Kayumba.
love
you.
that name.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so
It's
for
a
me,
powerful name.
I
Right.
think at the beginning of the week,
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of using GIS to help MNDAs collect their revenue. The one that's the discussion with them. I mean, I know in most cases, it's hard to collect revenues on the streets. There are certain kiosks within small shops which it's hard for you to. So I think with the help of GIS, being able to map those areas and then integrating all that on a system, I believe it's something great that he's doing in his field of work. Um, then my next one, which I mean, I've heard of it before, which is Newton's own fertilizer application using GIS, which is another great one. A bit technical, but it's one way to go. But the one that we had yesterday, the one with Roger, uh, although one key thing that I picked up, it wasn't about the complexity of how he applied GIS. The
Mm,
application is very simple, but it just needs just a bit of thinking to be able to implement it or think around it. So once you're able to conceptualize it, I believe then the implementation becomes quite easy. So one key thing I learned is now if you want to come up with something innovative, it shouldn't be something very complicated or very technical to be able to say, okay, I've come up with something like this, and then it's going to probably change the whole world. The problem can be there, exists, all right, but then how you apply GIS can be just something, a simple skill that's basic or beginners of GIS can even do. But it just has to do with how you can think around it and then just apply it. So just that way of doing it, I just loved how it was the initial the I just wonder whether how
Is it innovative? Is
innovate,
that the word?
yes, how innovative, yes, you're able to think around it, right? So I just love that.
Okay. Okay, so for me, my highlights were, I think the first one would be from Mr. Ben Akins when he talked about the fact that the only things that we cannot do with GIS is limited by our minds. I think that was what was like my go-to message. I was like,
Please
oh,
always
okay.
quote him.
Because initially when we're introduced to initially when we're all introduced to GIS, we felt like, okay, let's do some analysis, let's do some maps, okay, show places, that's all. But then come to think of it, meeting all these experts and practitioners in the field of GIS, and then coming to understand that diverse backgrounds that they come from, and then what they are using. Francis said we shouldn't call to the vehicle in quotes, to do was amazing for me. And I also like the submission from Roger when he talked about the fact that we should acquire more skills like communication skills, because it's one thing to come up with an innovation, but communicating that innovation to others for them who are not practitioners to also understand where you are coming from was key for me, because I find out that most of the times we come up with brilliant stuff, but then we go and talk to people and we are still using all these technical words, and then they're looking at our faces like, okay, what is this person talking about? And at the end of the day, at best they might clap for us, but then they don't understand or they have not understood a word of what we've said. So communication is very important and it's very key. So when it comes to skills of how to better ourselves as GIS practitioners, for me, that was the highlight from what I took from the interview. I think it was very, very brilliant. Okay. So,
Yeah.
as members of Where Geospatial, my final question to us is: well, are we satisfied with the podcast, or do we think we can do more to improve it for other programs up ahead? So, Francis, I think I'll start with you.
I think that we
Like
uh,
this being our third podcast.
what your special has always had in mind to do a podcast. We have a lot of things in place we want to do. The team is very small, so it's very difficult to implement everything. But like we talked about in the beginning, we decided to do this GIS Week a podcast because we want to pilot the original podcast we have in mind. And I think that this has not been bad at all. It has created anxiety among people. It has created expectations among people. And I know this evening, Roger put it on the page. Are we going to go live? Is there a section today? There's some kind of anticipation, and I think that if you ask me whether I am satisfied, yes, I am satisfied because I I like the fact that we stuck to the time that we gave people. We respected their time. But then I am not satisfied also because the conversation could have gone longer than that. Some of the conversations I realized there were more to be said, but then because of time we couldn't say all those things. But in all, I think that this is a way to go. What I have learned, one thing I've learned is you never know what you can learn from someone. If you look at my conversation with Ben, I've known Ben for a while. I've known Ben for a while. We talk, we do stuff, but I don't think I've really talked to him about his work. to this extent, like the way I did during the podcast. And talking to him about the work, I came to realize that yes, there are more things we can learn if we try to get to know what's happening with each other with their work, because GIS is not for anybody, but it's still for everyone. At the end of the day, you might need the ideas that Roger shared. You might need the ideas that Edward shared to apply somewhere. And I think that it's if we can get more people, no matter how uh, novice they think they are, I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters how much experience you have, because everyone's story was coming from a different point of view, and everyone had a different understanding of what he has come to gain so far. And I think the more we do these things like this, the more we inspire other people, because there are a lot of the more we do things, the more we will inspire other people, because there are a lot of people out there who want to start GIS. They have no idea where to start from. And I think this podcast like this is going to give some people a starting point. Some of them, it might give them where to even end. And it's a good thing,
Mm,
honestly.
okay. So I'm sorry, I went off for a minute. Okay. So Richie, what are your impressions so far about the podcast we had? Any subtractions, any additions? Can we do better as a team?
Well, first of all, there's always room for improvement. And like they say, you can never get it perfect on the first day.
Mm,
And it's also, uh, it has to be progressive. I mean, you can do your best to get a great start, which I believe we've done.
mm,
But I also believe that in our next one, we take
mm,
our challenges into consideration when we are planning for the next one. And I believe it
okay.
will be massive than this. Um,
Mm,
I believe we had a problem with our publicity.
mm,
Although we had some flyers going around telling people about it. But as compared to the remote sensing day, how we made a blast on social media,
mm,
even people who were not into GIS were wondering what was remote sensing, and uh,
yeah.
just to come to learn about it. I mean, that was a kind of standard I want us to set for the podcast. So now
Okay.
when someone Where Geospatial is coming up with a podcast series, then they just jump right in like, oh, I'm interested, even without
Mm,
knowing the details of it, just by hearing of it. So I just want us to be a solid brand on the podcast, because
okay.
they write articles
Mm,
and all that, but then sometimes it's easier to communicate your story
mm,
through speech or a talk other than just writing. So
okay.
I believe you've done well. Uh,
Mm,
I'll give 5 stars. I think I'll give four, although the publicity was low.
okay.
Um, but with the whole organization and the kind of people we were able to get on board, that was great.
Okay. So I'll just use your last words. There is more room for improvement. That I agree 100%. Okay, so I think we have done a good wrap up session of our interviews, our brilliant conversations that we had over the course of Monday to Thursday. They were brilliant conversations. I absolutely loved all of them. I'm really psyched, and I'm really grateful to all our guests who took time of their busy schedule to make time for that podcast. We are really grateful to them, and then we hope to working with them more in the future because they were brilliant minds, and I'm so happy they took time to talk to us. Okay, so going back to our executive coordinator, who is in the person of Francis Andofo, what next do we have planned as a team for Where Geospatial?
I think that we plan to launch a spatial data infrastructure. When
Mm,
what we consider as one of the things that we lack in the industry. Where Geospatial for 2 years we were actually on the low. We never came out to the public. We had to build a lot of structures at the background. And when we came out and made people got to know about us, one of the things that I came to realize was we had our own intention why we came and the problems we wanted to fix. But people also had a different intention, a different use that we could be to them. And one of them was they think that we can actually be data providers. We can actually be people who will give them data. So over all our network, from WhatsApp to Telegram, it has always been, can I have the district shape file of this country or
Right.
this area?
Yeah.
Can I have this email?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that people will just send their response. Okay, drop your email and I'll forward it to you. Then tomorrow someone else comes and says, can I have this shape file? Can I have this shape file? And then the same thing will happen. And so we realize that this is not a sustainable way of dealing with data. First of all, the data that is flying over, we don't get to have the opportunity. We don't get to have the opportunity to see the data and the nature, the way the data look like. And then secondly, whoever gets the data is just a duplication of the data over and over again. And so we decided that one of the things that we can do is to make a spatial data infrastructure, one that is unique from the other ones that has been out there. I say it's unique because
Okay.
our spatial data infrastructure, we talked to Edward who told us about spatial data infrastructure for satellite image that is being organized out there by Digital Earth Africa. Okay, can you hear me? I hear my network is
Yes,
breaking.
I can hear you.
Richie, then check your network. I think Newton is trying to join, but his network is also not good. So, Niti, if you
No.
can hear me, can you check and then get back? So, one thing I came to realize was that there is lack of data at the micro scale. We don't have data representing anything below district level. We don't have data representing things at the community level. We don't have data representing things at where we say province or county. In some countries, they will say county, area, town. We don't have anything
Yeah.
like that. And because of that, we are limited in our brains cannot think about analysis we will do at community level. Today, if there should be a disease outbreak at a community, we do not have a polygon shape file of that community. We don't want it perfect. At least we want to provide a baseline. And we are very sure that there are so many people who have done projects which require that they create that micro scale data set. But because those data were created under a project, it's still sitting on their computers. Our spatial data infrastructure is just going to be open. We are going to give several data sets. When we launch, I promise the audience that it's going to be a lot of data set that we promise to give them. And this is coming from
Okay.
collation of data sets from so many other people. But we're also going to make it open that if you have data, please upload it. Please send it to us. Let's do the needful to the data and then upload it. And I think one interesting thing about the data we're providing is that we have made sure we provide a documentation to the data set. So you can read the data,
Okay.
you can read the metadata about the data and make sure that the data fits the purpose for which you want to use it for. If it doesn't fit your
Brilliant.
objective, you at least have a baseline. We want to move away from the culture where people just give data with no metadata. And you take data which was an experimental data maybe for a group of students in a classroom, and you use it for a project that is maybe $1 million project, and you make projections and other things based on that data. You think you fix a problem because the person who created the data did not leave any information like this to know the purpose the data was created for, where, who created it, for us to understand the person's level of experience. All these things has to be taken into consideration. Yeah, so I think it's something that we'll be happy to give to the public, and we'll always be happy to sustain it.
Mm,
So that's what's
okay.
going to happen
Okay.
at our next program.
I'm super excited. I'm super pumped about it. I'm really super pumped. Okay, so we want to hear from our marketing and product manager, who is in the person of Richmond Hini, about plans laid down to launch our SDI. So, Richie, if you can hear me, what
Yes,
are
I
the
can.
plans we have? Okay, what are the plans for the launch of the SDI, of which I'm super pumped about it? What are our plans for it?
Yeah. So far, I think the background work has been done. It's been great working on it the past few months, and everything is ready. It's going
Okay.
to solve a lot of problems, a lot of hassles in the system.
Mm,
But one expectation is we just want to break data gap. Even most of our conversations over the week, people have talked about the lack of data, and there are times that people have the data they want to share, but then there's no platform to share on it. So this is where I think there's a gap we just want to fill in the spatial industry. And coming up with it, as from the marketing side, we actually have put together a couple of ideas, or let me say mini projects, on how to really blow it up for people to get to know of it and then start using it so that our targets will be achieved. So that's the main thing. So once someone says, I want data for my work, even before planning on going to the field to probably collect data, we just want the idea of the person going first to the Where Geospatial SDI platform. Just the way when you want to search for a word or you want an information on something, you quickly go on Google for Google to help you answer or solve an issue. In the same way, we want to use the SDI to share data, make data readily available for anyone who is in need of it. So as and when you need data, it's available 24/7, and we have a team on standby to assist people when they have difficulty in accessing or using the data. So in the end, although it's going to be a system where they'll be working on, we also want to have close contact with people who use our data. It's also a way we want to improve on it over time. So any challenge they face, any recommendation or suggestion, we take that into consideration to help improve on it day in, day out.
okay. Great, great. Okay, Gamina, are you with us now? Hello, Gamina, can you hear me?
I think she was saying that it's around 11 o'clock in South Africa, so I think it's late there, but
Oh,
she's just listening in. So
oh, okay, okay,
yeah.
okay, great, okay. So, okay, we are wrapping this up soon, so no problem. Okay, so Francis, when do we actually launch this SDI?
We hope to launch it next week, next weekend. Um,
Okay,
we just want to be able to get the opportunity to tell more people about it. But the SDI is ready. The data sets are ready. We have uploaded some of
okay,
the data sets. The rest are also ready that we can upload anytime. But we want to give more people the opportunity to know about it because during the launch, we're actually going to not just launch it. We are going to do a live demo on the SDI.
okay,
People can actually connect their QGIS directly to our SDI and download the portion of the data they want. The SDI is going to be there for everyone. You don't need to download the entire Ghana onto your computer. It takes a lot of
yeah,
space. So now what we are saying is that connect it with your QGIS. And if you want the root of gamma, just take gamma from our SDI, use it, and then leave the rest there because tomorrow you can come and take it again. So we reduce the space that we duplicate on our machines. So if I copy a data to you and you copy a data to Richie, all of us have a copy on our computer. But that same data, if we had it at a central point where we all know that anytime we need data, we can connect to it, then it becomes very, very much important that we all join, we give more people the opportunity to join so that they can see how to do the connection. They can see how to get the data on their computer with less stress. Okay, so I think that it's going to be uh, something that will be a dream come true because we have thought of this
Yeah.
for a long time. We've really worked over the years, and to those it's interesting to know that we have come to create the culture where we don't wait for problems to be solved by money. We identify problem and we try to fix it with the little we can, and we hope that the world will join the train. We are saying that we
Yeah.
have, yes, we have the solution, but sometimes if you are telling people about the solution, it doesn't make sense because it's just like a
Yeah.
dream. But once they see it in real life, then they can see that it can be scaled. This is something that can be scaled such that every person who uses GIS can just go to the Where Geospatial SDI and get a micro scale data that can actually be used for detailed work, because we are still using district level. And the district, you see, interestingly, the district we call in Ghana is very big. And within a district, there are a lot of communities within a district, but we can only, at best, we show it as a point. We
Yeah.
can't see the nature of roads within the district, within the township. We can't tell the, the, the amount of pipe-borne water within a town because the town is already a point. So,
Yeah.
yes, the town is already a point. So, how do you show a
A
point within
point.
a
Yeah.
point? So
Yeah.
it becomes very difficult for us to project the reality of some communities and some towns to the people who actually matter, like the politicians or the decision makers. The decision makers have not yet come to realize that we'd only have maybe two two boreholes in a community, because in their records it has only been recorded that they have an NGO has constructed five boreholes, but in reality GIS will tell you that there are only two there. And
Yeah.
if we are showing that community as a point, then how do you convince the politician that it is two? He will believe the records because the records comes from his people, but it's more than that. So this is not just like making data available. This is like breaking we are breaking the challenge of thinking districts to the point of thinking below districts. Let's think now about communities. Let's think about areas. Let's think about neighborhoods. We want to be able to identify everything that is around in our country. So hopefully next week
Brilliant.
we'll launch it. Yeah. And
So next week
I think
Saturday,
one interesting next week
can
Saturday.
we? Okay.
I think one interesting thing that people would need to know is that we didn't do all these things by ourselves. We have made it available for everyone to be part of us. We've created an intern pool, I think 3 months ago, where we allowed
Yeah.
people who want to gain the experience to be with us. We have done this with the interns, and trust me, I think somewhere next year, early next year, there was going to be a second SDI coming up, which will explain what that is going to be. But it's going to complement this. But trust me, what the interns are actually doing at the technical team, they're actually developing a software from scratch, writing codes.
Nice.
And
Okay.
if you look at the software they are developing, finally, when it comes out, it will surprise you that these people are actually people who said they don't have jobs. And
I
people will
hope
come.
we have a podcast on that to discuss that. I really
Sure,
hope we do.
I think Newton will be happy to talk about that. I have seen it in
Okay.
development, but I think Newton will be happy to talk about that. But I feel like these are the people who have so much skill, but the companies are saying that you do not have experience, so we won't give you job. And we want to
Yeah.
use those people to build a software that those companies will come and use, and they will realize that they actually have employed the wrong people, because there are a lot of there are a lot of people who have the skills, but they are not that. Some people are just are just not the ones who brag about what they can do. Give them the chance and they will do it. I feel like it's unfair when we say that after so many years of people going to school, we are going to deprive them the opportunity of getting a job because they don't have an experience. The interesting thing is that every job, no matter your experience, no one has an experience because every job has its own dynamics. You can be a project
Yeah.
manager in company A and you go to company B, still same project manager, but then the kind of project you are managing and the challenges you are facing, you've never faced it before. So you don't have an
Yeah.
experience. Yeah, so everyone needs to be given a chance. Yes, we are not saying take them to the positions that is going to cause you with their slightest mistake, but give them a chance.
But then
Even
give them the
internship,
opportunity.
yes, even internship, people are not getting internship because some people feel I don't know what, but you are not supposed to pay them. And these people, what the special wish to give internship to as many people as in the future, we wish to give internship to even 1 million people at a time because we work remotely and we want people to stay home and work. We want to fix the problems by staying home and work. Work at your own pace and make sure you learn something new and then create a skill for yourself.
Okay. Okay. Well said. I'm super excited about this SDI. I'm super pumped that you also talked about the fact that when we get actual data, like micro data, we'll be able to check and evaluate things that are being said as being there, especially for political reasons, because we live in a dispensation where politicians are just it's like they're just coming up to say, "Oh, I've done this, I've done that," to gain political points, but then it's like they're not really championing any developmental agenda. So I think if we have data at the macro level where we can check and see, okay, maybe community A has a borehole, why doesn't community B have a borehole, and all that, at least we can also help and contribute our quota to shaping the development of this nation. And I'm super pumped about the SDI. I hope people watching us are also excited as I am about it, because data is everything. And once you have access to data, it also opens up your imagination, and then you can come up with a number of things that you can create. And then also get skills, the additional skills that Mr. Roger Kayumba talked about. Please acquire more skills, acquire how to communicate your ideas and your innovations so that people can buy into it. Okay, so as we are wrapping up this session, I want to ask if for our final words, like, is there anything we want to add? Is there anything we want our viewers to know in a way of final words? Because we are wrapping up the session.
Well, I'd like to come in here. So
Okay, sure.
I thought we are just a week away.
Mm,
In most cases, you see the Where Geospatial team trying to push the people on the other side. Now, for the people here listening to us today, and the people who will watch later on YouTube, we are all trying to reach out to the audience, the masses. And for us, we are just a few here. So I just want to urge each and every one, and once you see a Where Geospatial flyer or something we are trying to communicate outside. I just want everyone to also share, comment, take part in it. We just want to go together as a community, not just as just
spectators. It should be citizens and not spectators. Citizens of GIS and not spectators of GIS. I like that.
we all roll in, put on our working shoes, I should say, and let's let's make GIS as vital as any of the top-notch fields in the industry these days. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Because the potential GIS has is enormous, it's incalculable. So please, GIS enthusiasts and lovers of GIS, please, we are encouraging ourselves to be citizens. Don't just come and be like, oh, okay, what are they using GIS for? Please be a partaker, okay? Be a partaker. Okay, so Francis, your final words before we wrap up.
I think I would just want to say that everything, the quest of human beings has changed. Everything now is asking the question where. There's so much question. There's too many where questions than how. There are so many people who are looking for where exactly they will find the things they are looking for. I think gone are the days where people were satisfied with 70% of the population is doing well and 20% are. No, people are becoming more interested in the details that they want to find out where are the 70%, where can we find them? We want to go and see them. And that is what is going to make GIS very important in the future. If you are not a GIS person and you are watching us, don't just watch because that a time will come that you would get hold of a GIS data, whether you like it or not, because you are supposed to prove to people where things are. Politicians are now forced to employ GIS in one way or the other in their work. Even journalists are displaying GIS on their newscasts because if they talk about places, they need to show us where those places are. Yes, those are yes just fundamentals, but I feel a time will come we would move beyond that. If you do statistics and you think that yes, me, I'm a statistician, so I don't need GIS. GIS is a new language. It uses mathematics, statistics, English, and graphics to communicate. And what it does is that a time will come that your statistics will become a subset of GIS. And GIS people might come to become your supervisor because they do beyond that. So it is about time you, if not anything, try to understand, follow what is special. We want the world to know that we are not just promoting our profession, we are telling the world that everything now is becoming about location. Look at Google. Look at what Uber has done to our transport industry. Now people are becoming interested. Uber has even made Ghanaians. Ghana has a big problem where we can't even know our street names. Ghanaians are now using street names to direct people because Uber will tell you the name of your street. We still don't have our street names there, but Uber tells us the name of our street. We now know the names of our streets. We are interested in distances and how much it costs. We used not to care about all those things. If your Uber person charges you, you want to find out, so just this short distance, you want to find out how much it costs with a particular distance. Everything is becoming GIS, and the data is going to turn into GIS data. All the data sets we've had, all the data sets we've had. Look at census data. The moment census data start to move from non-spatial data to spatial data should tell the world that we can't do without GIS because the census data is the fundamental data upon which all the developmental decisions of a country is being built. And if the entire census data was actually based on GIS, then it should tell you that now the quest for location is high. If you ask Google, my last thing I'd say, Google just made the product engineer for Google Place API said that they brought the Google Place API because they came to realize that out of every three search on Google on computer, they realized that people were actually asking for the location and direction to a place. And then out of every three out of every five search on the mobile phone was actually people looking for a place. And they realized that the quest of people looking for a place was so enormous that they have to bring the Google Place API. Beyond that, we are still using the Google API and then Google Place location stuff, but we still have a lot of data that is still sitting on our computer, which is not yet spatial. But when a GIS person gets it, it will increase, he can increase the potency of that data by adding the location where those information is coming from. So there's no boundary. Statistics, computer science, mathematics, uh, archaeology. Archaeologists are using GIS and remote sensing like as if that is their main thing. Geology, oceanography. I've seen oceanography students coming to get GIS software. Agriculture students, monitoring and evaluation, even project management. There's GIS is almost everywhere. Supply chain management, everything is now GIS. And if you can't prove to people what it's in the real world, there's no need to pay you that much. So everyone should get on board. Let's learn about GIS, if not anything, understand how GIS work, so we can be able to make decisions and even employ the right contractors to do our work for us.
Hmm. Okay. Thank you so much,
You're welcome.
Mr. Francis. Wonderful. For yes, I said when Professor Usuberima and then together with you and then Richmond and I think Newton and Ben came together to work on elections. But I think you use GIS to track the 2020 elections in Ghana. And it was really exciting to watch on TV about how you use GIS to try and predict which constituencies were, I think, green and blue. Some if
Yeah,
memory serves me right, yeah, green and blue. Yeah. But then I was a bit disappointed when the tree planting exercise did not involve in AGIS aspects because I felt like it would be very difficult as to how to evaluate after a period of 5 years. But then all hope is not lost. We keep on keeping on. And then one project I also worked with School of Public Health about mapping FSWs, and FSWs are like female sex workers over the whole of Ghana was a really exciting one. We were supposed to map where they like we normally find them, and it was really interesting to know people's um like key stakeholders give you places where you normally find these people, and then you go and people can actually confirm, and then you map those places. So day in day out, we are getting data, and I'm super happy that Where Geospatial has taken the initiative to launch this SDI. And then I'm super excited about the fact that there will also be a second phase where we get to add on. So the fact that there will be an addition makes me very
yeah,
happy, and I know that the future is indeed GIS. Okay, so I want to say a very big thank you to the Where Geospatial team. You guys have been phenomenal. I like working with you guys. I'll choose you guys any day. So, our executive coordinator, Mr. Francis Anderful, we thank you so much for your time here today. Richmond Techihine, our Project 100K manager, we thank you so much for making time. Thank you so much for making time to speak to us today. Unfortunately, because of network issues, we
yeah.
lost
Couldn't
Mr.
get into.
Isaac Newton Kisiedu, and then Gamina, who is also in South Africa, who is an intern at the research department of Where Geospatial, is also listening, but because of I think network challenges, she wasn't able to speak to us. But all the same, I think we had a brilliant conversation. I had so much fun talking about GIS Week 2021, powered by Where Geospatial. We learned so much. And once again, to our guests, Mr. Akins, Mr. Kayumba, Mr. Boama, Mr. Kisiedu, we thank you so much for your time. We learned so much from you. And once again, the only limitation, let me quote Mr. Akins, the only limitation to GIS is that's by our minds. So, guys, let's explore, let's innovate, let's create, and most importantly, let's learn how to communicate these ideas and then channel these into making our nations or our various economies or wherever we find ourselves better day by day. So I have
Right.
been your host. My name is Chifa Adimle Poplampo. I am the head of research for Where Geospatial, and I want to say thank you and then bye
Right.
bye.